And if we have some time, we can also open the lines at the end of the webinar to take more of your questions. So you should be seeing my screen now. You're looking at the Quality Stars New York website. And I want to show you how you can access the portal through the website. So the website is QUALITYstarsNY.org, and that takes you to the home page. On the home page, there's an announcement that the online portal is now available for center-based programs. The portal for family providers will be available shortly. If you are a family provider on the call, please stay on because the navigation of the portal is very similar for both centers and providers. There are only a few minor differences, and I will try to point out those differences as I go along. So you see here that we have the portal hyperlink, so just click on that, and it takes you to the portal login page. So welcome to the WELS portal. Okay. You would click on the login button. If you have already used the portal to apply to participate in Quality Stars New York, you should already have your email address and your password. You would use that same information here. So now you enter your email address that you used to apply. And your password. If for some reason you forgot your password, you can click here to reset the password, and a message will be sent to your email address with your temporary password that you can use to log on. If for some reason you do not have access to the email address that was used to apply for Quality Stars New York, contact Ariel and she will be able to assist you. Okay. Then you click the login button to enter the portal. So this is the first page that you'll see. Now at the top there's a home page where you can always go back to this screen, My Organization, where you're able to see your sites and your users and your account information. If you'd like to allow another user to access the portal to complete part of the self-study, you can do so by clicking Users and add another user, such as your assistant director or your education coordinator. There can be multiple users in the portal. Click Create User, and then you enter their information. Enter a password, confirm the password, your password question, and the answer. Okay, and then there's only one option to click, which is Organization Admin or Administrator. And then you create the user. So now this additional person can also enter the portal. Okay. Now to go back, we go to the home page. Okay. And to go to the screen to access the self-study, go to My Organization and Sites. Okay. Now, under Sites and Activities, you see a series of tabs. The first tab is Training. This is where you're able to access the portal user guide and other information about Quality Stars New York. To access the user guide, just click on the View hyperlink. The user guide was also sent to you via email, but know that you can always access it through the portal. The next tab is Application. That was where you submitted your application. And now Self-Study. This is where you will start the self-study. The Improvement Plan tab is not activated yet because the Improvement Plan is generated after the self-study is submitted and the site is rated. So this will be for your future reference. Don't worry about it now. Okay. So now I'm in the self-study tab and I want to start my self-study. Here I already have some schools listed. Please know that this is all test data that we're doing, so no program is actually being affected. We just want to show you exactly how it looks. Okay, so here you see I have my site listed, the license number. The self-study date would be the date that I start the self-study, and the status. So I'm going to start the self-study for the East Harlem Block Nursery. So I will click on Start a Self-Study. You see now I'm in the program, so the name is listed up here. And the first screen I've seen says Using the Self-Study Wizard. Now the wizard is a series of screens that will guide you through the process by clicking Next. You can also go through the wizard by navigating the side menu here. That takes you to all of the various screens, and you can navigate the screens in any order that you like. But for now, I'm going to click on Next to go to the next screen. So the first screen I see is Site Information. This is your license information and other site information that we'd like to collect. Some of the information is on your license, so it's listed here and you cannot edit that. Contact us if for some reason this information is incorrect. You're also able to input additional information such as your phone number, email address, director name, and the owner name. Also your hours of operation and the days of the week that you operate. The next question asks for the hours per week worked by staff that equal full-time status at your site. We have to ask this question because we prorate points in the qualifications and experience section by the percentage of time earned by the employee. So it's important for us to know the number of hours that constitute full-time status at your site. Now, if, for example, your program operates 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, then full-time status for your teaching staff would be 15 hours a week, and you would put 15 here. However, if you are a full-day program and full-time status for your teaching staff is 40 hours a week, then you would enter that number here. Okay. We ask for this information because full-time status at any given site can vary, so we need the site to report that information to us. So I'm just going to put in 40. Okay. The next talks about primary language. So here you see English is selected, and we have some other languages that you can also select. And then the self-study date is the default date that you start the self-study. So you see that today's date is listed here because I just started this self-study. Okay. The next series of questions asks about program type. You should only select one program type. You see the options listed here. Next, we ask for site conditions, and here you can select all that apply. So if you serve infants 0 to 12 months, serve toddlers 13 months to 5 years, toddlers, preschoolers, serving children with special needs, or serving children whose home language is not English. It is very, very important that you select the accurate options here because your total available number of points varies depending on the type of populations of children that you serve. Okay. So it's important for us to know exactly the populations that you're serving. Okay. The next series talks about program attributes. So here we want to know the type of program that you are. So if you're affiliated with the college or university, if you are a Head Start program, you would indicate that here. And if you were a nonprofit, you indicate that here. So this is a fairly extensive list, and you can select all that applies. So please take your time and select the applicable options.
Ola,
So
quick
once you do
question.
that, sure.
If you have different age groups, or sorry, different age groups have different hours, do you just put the longest hours?
Yes, that would work, the longest hours.
And what if you are a site that serves in a school district classroom?
You would still note the number of hours that constitute full-time. So every person who's employed knows if they're full-time or if they're part-time. And so you would note the number of hours that constitute full-time status for that teacher. Okay.
She said this would be with the program type question. That was related to the program type question.
Oh, so say the question again, Ariel.
She wrote, what if you are a site that serves in a school district classroom?
So if you are a public school operated UPK program, you would indicate public school. If you are a community-based organization that happens to be co-located in a public school building, you would note child care center. So really the license number would drive the program type. So if you're licensed by OCFS, you are a child care center. If you are a part of a school district and the state education department, then you're a public school. If you are registered with the state education department and you have a certificate number, then you are a education department registered nursery school. So again, the license type really drives the program type.
Great, thanks. That answers the question.
Okay. So then we click the next button to go to the next screen. So this screen talks about the staff roster. Okay. And here we want to get a sense of all teaching and on-site administrative staff. Now we're working with Aspire so that this information would be pre-populated, but due to the volume of teachers that have to be verified in Aspire, it's very likely that when you start your self-study, you will not see staff members listed here. And so you would proceed to enter your staff members. Now, you can opt to not do this. If you have a lot of staff and you don't want to enter their names and positions, you don't have to do that. However, then you will not be able to get a sense of the number of points your site would receive in the staff qualifications and experience category. So it's really up to you. However, at least one person's name must be listed here in order to proceed with the self-study. So I'm going to go ahead and enter some staff members so you get a sense of how this works. So just click in the space and then you start to enter the name. And you can tab through or just click into the space. And then for positions, select the applicable position. So here I'll select the director and then their hire date. You can estimate this date to the best of your ability if you have to. That's fine. And then the termination date, you don't have to worry about that. And then to add the person, you click Insert. Okay. This red message is just telling me that I have to update my staff qualification summary on the next screen because I'm now entering additional staff. And I'll walk us through updating qualifications and experience in just a minute. But I'll go ahead and add some more staff members.
And Ola?
Yes.
Do you have to include support staff such as cooks and janitors in your staff
We're asking for, great question. We're asking you to list all teaching and on-site administrative staff. So those who function in terms of running the program or provide instruction to the children.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay, and just a few more. I'll do
And sorry, does
teacher.
the staff roster apply to occupational therapists, physical therapists, and speech staff as well?
No, we do not need information on sort of adjunct staff, just those who regularly provide instruction in the classroom setting.
Thanks.
So no social workers, no paraprofessionals unless they're teaching assistants. I know New York City uses the term paraprofessional for their assistant teachers. The terminology gets a little tricky, but we are only interested in those who are regularly in the classroom working with children, so those that are there to meet ratios primarily, and then the administrative staff as well.
Well, the provider who asked the question says that their speech therapist is actually a part of the classroom the entire day. So would there be another way to classify them in the staff roster?
Well, let's get back to her offline, because I'd like to know more specifics about the role of that speech therapist.
Okay, great.
Perhaps you can ask her to email you that question. Okay, and then we'll add an assistant teacher, and there will also be a new person to the site. And then we click Insert to add. So now you see we have our staff roster here. Okay. So now we'll go to the next screen. Well, actually, let me show how you can also edit a staff person. So let's say, for example, I incorrectly noted Rex Ryan's hire date. So I want to change that date. So I'll just go to the row and click Edit. Okay, and now I can make those changes. So I'll change the date to 2003. Okay, and now I click Save to save my edit. And so you see that it's been saved. Okay. Now I click Next to go to the next screen, which is Qualifications and Experience. So here you can enter summary information on your staff. I know that you all have been doing this in Aspire, and they're in the process now of verifying all of the information. But that process takes some time, and so what we wanted you to do on the portal is get a sense of how your staff would be rated, the number of points that you might expect to receive based on your staff's qualifications and experience. Now this is just to give you a sense, right? This is not exactly how you would be rated because we need to verify all of this information. But the idea is that as you work through the self-study, if you have a sense of your points and how you're rated, then you can make some minor changes or adjustments before you actually submit for the rating. Okay, so you enter this information, the qualifications and experience information, for every position category. And we have 3 position categories in Quality Stars New York. Administrators, which is a broad term for those who are responsible for program supervision and operation. And you may use other titles in your program, supervisors, ed coordinators, program coordinator. but the idea is that these are administrators. And so here you see that based on my staff roster, the program automatically tells me that I have one administrator at my site. So this number will not change. So the program is now expecting me to input the qualifications and experience information for this one person. And so here you see that we have the qualifications listed. We start with higher education degrees. Please select the highest degree earned. So if someone has a master's degree, you would only input the master's degree for them. You would not indicate that they also have a bachelor's and an associate. So we just want the highest degree earned. Similarly with college credits in management, supervision, leadership, or administration, select the highest number of those credits that were earned by the individual. So if let's say I want to say that my administrator has a master's degree, so I find that standard, I click on edit, and now I can change the number of staff that has this qualification. So I will input 1 and click update to save. And you see that I've now earned 16 points for that degree and 16 points total. And let's say that the director also has 7 college credits in management or supervision or leadership or administration. Okay, then you click edit and input 1 and update to save. And you see now that my total number of points has increased to 18. Okay. And the other standards talk about the Children's Program Administrator credential, the School Administrator certificate, and the last section talks about experience, so having at least 3 years of experience in supervision or management in an early care and education program. So my director does have at least 3 years of experience, so I'll click edit, and I'll change the 0 to a 1, update to save, and now you see that my administrator has earned a total of 21 points. Now again, all of this information has to be verified through Aspire, but this gives you a sense of the number of points that the administrator earned. And now, to go through to teachers, you have to click on the teacher's qualifications. Ariel, any questions about this screen before I go on?
Not that I see.
Okay. So I want to be clear here. You don't want to click the next button because that will actually take you out of the entire qualifications and experience section of the portal. Instead, you want to click on teachers to go to the next category of staff and input their information. So I click on teachers qualifications. Okay, and now I'm going to input my information about my teachers. Okay, and you see that the number of teachers is automatically populated here from the staff roster. So let's say my teacher has a first aid CPR certificate that's valid, so not expired. I click edit and I enter the number. Now if I mistakenly enter the wrong number, I get an error message because it says that the number of staff cannot be greater than 1. It cannot be greater than the number that's in this box. Okay, so now I can edit that. So I put in 1 and then I update to save. Okay, and you see 2 points were earned. The next series talks about credentials such as the CDA or American Montessori credential. We also recognize the International Montessori credential, the New York State Infant Toddler credential. So you can input all of these that apply. So let's say the teacher has a Montessori credential. It's a Montessori program. So we click edit and we input number 1. And update to save. And you see that my points are changing here. The next series talks about higher education. So having 18 college credits in early childhood or child development, having an associate's degree in early childhood or child development. We also recognize related fields, but if you have a related field, you have to have at least 9 credit hours in early childhood and child development. Okay. Or any associate's degree, but 24 hours in early childhood or child development. Our related fields categories can be found in the standards themselves or in the resource guide. Both of those are available on our website. Or contact us if you have any questions about the related fields that we recognize. So let's say the teacher has as her highest degree a bachelor's. So I would edit and input the number 1. Again, only recognizing the highest degree earned. We understand that folks earn degrees along the way, but we only recognize the highest degree. And click Update to save. Okay, I'm having an error message. Let's see. 42. For some reason, it's not letting me save this number 1. Let's try another one. Okay, let's say she has a master's. Let's see if this works now. So edit and number 1 and update to save. Oh, still getting a problem. So this is a bug that we'll look into. For some reason, it's not letting me save the higher ed degree. Okay, so I'll skip that. Cancel to undo. And then the next section talks about having your teacher certificate. So birth to grade 2. We also recognize N to 6, even though I know that they're phasing that out. And the special education teacher certificate.
Ola, we have 2 questions.
Go ahead.
The first is, if teachers have completed their CDA credentials but have not yet been assessed, can we enter for that and have it be a yes?
So we would recognize the completed CDA. So the teacher has to have gone through the entire process and be able to submit to Aspire their actual CDA credential.
And the second question is, if there are, let's say, 20 teachers in the program, how do I input the qualifications for each one of them?
Okay, so let's say, for example, this number was 20. So on the staff roster, I have listed 20 of my teachers. So then this number would automatically generate as a 20. And then let's say 10 of my teachers have their bachelor's degree. I would click, so I would find the bachelor's degree standard. So here it is. And now I want to update this number from 0, number of staff having a bachelor's degree as their highest degree. I want to change that from 0 to 10. So I click Edit. And now I can change the number of staff that are associated with this standard. So I would input, if 10 of my 20 teachers have a BA, I would just input the number 10 and I would click Update to save. And then that generates the number of points that all of those teachers earned for having that degree. Now, of course, I can't save it here because I only have 1 teacher in my roster, so I can't show you this, but the process is the same for multiple teachers.
So the idea is that this is a summary of the different groups and their collective qualifications and experiences, right?
Right. It's summary information. Aspire has individual information on teaching staff. This is summary information that hopefully it's easier for you to collect and to give you a sense of how your staff would be rated, the points that they would receive for the qualifications that they have. And then So now if I'm ready to proceed with my assistant teachers, I would click on the assistant teachers qualifications. If I wanted to go back for some reason to administrators, I would click on administrators qualifications. So assistant teachers, you see that my staff roster also listed one assistant teacher, so the number 1 is pre-populated here. And so if I want to give that person a first aid CPR training, I would click edit, and I would update that number of staff to 1. And you see I earned 2 points now. And let's try giving her an AA degree. So I click edit next to AA. That's her highest degree that she's earned, an associate's degree. So I click edit. And I change the 0 to a 1 or 2 or 3 or however many staff have that degree as a highest degree, and you update. Okay, and you see now that I've earned my points here. Okay, and next we talk about the teaching certificates and experience. So I'll give her 3 years of experience. I'll edit, change the 0 to a 1, and then I update. So you see at the bottom my total is 40 points. So my assistant teacher has earned 40 points. Now the next section in qualifications and experience is retention. Now this is automatically calculated. So let me click on that. Okay, so this is retention. So sites may earn 4 points in the qualifications and experience category if the overall retention rate for teaching staff is 80% or above. So retention rate is a percent of current teaching staff employed by the site 1 year ago. Okay, and we use the hire date to compute this information. So in the staff roster, when you entered your staff, you listed their hire date. So that's the date that we're using to know if that person has been with your program over 1 year. And so you see here that my total number of teachers were 2. I had 1 teacher that was employed over a year ago, so my retention rate is 50%, so I do not earn any retention points. So this number would only be 4 or 0. Okay. So now I can go to my qualification summary, and now I can see all of the points that were earned by my teaching staff. Okay. Now sometimes, because we just entered the information, the system hasn't had a chance to sort of factor it all in yet, so you sometimes have to sort of reload. So what I would do is, let's say I go back to staff roster. So it's not showing me the points that I've earned here because it hasn't recognized that yet. But let's say I go back to staff roster. I see my staff, and now I go back to qualifications. Let's say I go to next. Okay. And then I toggle through the various qualification screens. So teachers, assistant teachers. This is a bit tedious, I apologize, but it allows the system to sort of reload. And then qualification, so now I'm back to qualification summary. Let's see if it worked. Okay, so now the system has sort of reloaded, and now you can see the points that I've earned as an administrator, teachers, assistant teachers. Okay, and then we average the points across the number of staff. Now here, because it's just 1, 1, and 1, the average is the actual number of points. But the idea here is that you see the number of points earned by each category of staff. Okay, and then you see, then we average teachers and assistant teachers points. So you see that average. You see if any retention points were earned, and then you see the total number of points earned in the category. Okay. Now every category in Quality Stars New York you can earn up to 90 points. So this site has earned 57 out of a total available 90 points in the qualifications and experience category. So hopefully it's helpful to have this sort of information, and you're not just submitting your information blindly to us, but along the way you can have a sense of how you're doing and how you might be rated. Any questions before I go on, Ariel?
One, it's a specific question. We're an early learn program that started October 1st, 2012, and we've kept all the teaching staff who've been there, who've been in the center for more than 10 years. I actually don't see that as a question. I guess maybe how that would affect retention.
Yeah, I think I'd have to have more information. So if it's a question that's specific, they should email you or email me, and we'll get back to them.
Okay, great.
Okay. So the next section, so we click on Next now. So we're done with qualifications and experience, and we want to go to the checklist. And so we can click Next or Checklist. Okay. So here I select the standard type, which is Quality Stars New York. That's not going to change. And now my checklists are listed. So you see that we have 3 separate checklists for 3 categories. We just did the qualifications and experience category, so that's why it's not listed here. Okay. So you see that you can see the number of points that you earned for that checklist, the last updated date. So again, you can always come back to this. You can log on, be on for about 15 minutes, then you can log off and come back the next day. And the system saves your information all along the way. And it gives you your status, if you started the checklist or not, if you're in progress, or if you if you've submitted it. So here you see that I haven't started any of my checklists. And you can start them in any order. I don't have to start with learning environment. I can start with family engagement first. So let's click on family engagement to get started. Okay, so you see that family engagement not started. This is the checklist that I'm in. And the first thing you want to do is save. You want to save the checklist so that the system recognizes that you're starting it. It's a way to reload the system. So that's the first thing you want to do. And honestly, when you're in the checklist, you always want to be saving, right? We know that, systems time out, and we don't want you to lose your information. So just as good practice, be clicking that save button as much as you can, if not every 5 minutes or so. Okay, so you see here that the system says it's saved. So by clicking save, what I also did was activate my document library, which is a way for me to start to add my files. Okay, so I'll just walk you through sort of the structure of this, and then we'll go through adding documentation. So on the very left column, you have the name of the subcategory or the section, right, of the standard. So here we're in communication, and every section of the standards has its own code. So communication is code C, so it's in parentheses, the C, right? And then you have the indicator of the standard itself, and so we have the standard language. So here for C1, okay, program communicates with parents of infants in writing on a daily basis about caregiving routines such as feeding, sleeping, and diapering, and toileting. Okay. The next column, don't worry about that. This would automatically generate a check once you have indicated that you meet the standard. So the system does that check. You don't have to do anything here. The next column is points, so you can see the number of available points for the standard. Then the next column is sources of evidence. So here we list the various sources of evidence that you can provide to meet the standard. Now remember, in order to meet the standard, we need at least one source of evidence unless we specify differently. So for example, for this one, the source of evidence would be 3 completed copies of the form used for communication and evidence of use of the form. Okay, so that's one. Or you can submit 3 completed copies of the notes or notebook, and of course you can remove identifying information. So you have one option here, and you have a second document option here. Okay. And then the very last column is where you indicate that yes, I meet this standard, and this would be the source of evidence that I plan to submit. So let's go down. So I'll scroll down so you can see the checklist. So you see all of the standards are listed here. So C2, the standard language, and then the various evidence that I can submit, C3, C4. So now that we're in the family engagement category, I want to say that I meet standard C2. So I have a comprehensive way of communicating with my families about my policies and procedures. And really this talks about the parent handbook, right? So I want to upload my parent handbook as my source of evidence. So the first thing I would do is click on, so I see parent handbook, and then I see source of evidence files, add files. So great, now I want to add my parent handbook to this standard. So I click add files. Okay. So you see if I click add files, let me scroll up, I have now activated the documents library. So this is new. This is where all of my uploaded documents will be saved, and this is where I am able to link my documents to particular standards. So because I clicked add files under C2 parent handbook, C2 Parent Handbook automatically shows up in my documents library as a prompt. So it's reminding me that I am looking for documents to meet this particular standard. Okay? This is a way to help you to remember where you were in the checklist, because it's quite a lot of information down there. So this is helpful. Always look up here to see the document that you should be looking for. So it's a reminder, okay, I'm looking for my parent handbook. Right now, there are no documents in my library, so I want to add a new document. So I click Add New Document. Okay. Now you see that I now have fields where I can name the document, save it in a folder, and browse for my file on my flash drive or on my computer. So first I can name it. We ask that you always insert the code for the standard at the beginning of the name. When you're naming something in the portal, we need to know the standard that it refers to. And again, you can always look up here and just copy this, right? This is your cheat sheet. So C2 Parent Handbook. Ooh, I spelled that wrong. Okay. And then the folder, remember I'm in the family engagement checklist, so I want to click family engagement. And now I'll look for the file on my computer or on my flash drive. So I click browse. So now your window should pop up and you should choose a file to upload. So I remember that I saved my files for the portal on my desktop. Okay, the file. And you'll see that even before I started the portal, I've organized my files. I went through the paper version of the standards very thoroughly. I saw which standards I met. I saw the evidence that I needed to provide to meet that standard. And I've organized my paperwork and my files so that I can now more easily upload the right documentation. So the first thing I did was create folders for each of the categories. So you see here I have family engagement, learning environment, management, and leadership. So this is helping me to keep my files organized. So I suggest even if you have your files elsewhere on your computer for work, that you create a separate system, make copies of those files for Quality Stars New York and just organize them separately. This will really help you with the upload process. So now I know I'm in the family engagement checklist, so I open my family engagement folder, and I know I'm looking for communications. So now I also have folders for the subcategories. So every subcategory has its own folder, and I've already saved my files in their appropriate subcategory folder. Again, making it very easy for myself when I'm actually in the portal. So I know I'm looking for my communications file, so I open communications, and I see I've already saved my parent handbook, and I've already saved it linking it to C2. Because I went through the paper version of the standards, I know that this copy of the handbook is for C2. Again, making it very easy for myself. So now I select the file and I click Open. So you see that the file shows up here in File Name, and now to add it to my Documents library, I click Insert. So you see now that it's been added to the library. Here it is, C2 Parent Handbook in my Family Engagement folder with the file name C2 Parent Handbook.doc. So it's a Word document. Okay. You see that there's a checkbox next to it. So that checkbox means that I'm linking this file to this standard, C2 Parent Handbook. So if that's correct, now I click Save to complete the linking process. Remember, save all along the way. So now my Documents library has disappeared, but when I go back to C2, I see that my parent handbook is now listed under my source of evidence. Okay? So I have successfully linked this file to this standard. However, in order to get the points for meeting the standard, I still must click the checkbox in the answer column, because right now my points is 0. Right? I haven't earned any points yet. All I've done was link a document to a standard. But now I want to generate my points for doing that. So I click in the answer checkbox, and then I save the checklist.
Hi, Ola.
I'll say one thing, and now you see that I've generated 5 points for meeting the standard. Okay, go ahead, Ariel. You have a question?
Actually, I think you will demonstrate this just next, but a provider just asked, what if the parent handbook is the document for several sections of the standard?
Okay, great question. Okay, so that's for C2, and so now let's go to C5. So I'm going to the standards, and I come to C5 that talks about program communicates with families in writing about staff members' educational qualifications and professional experience. And I see that one of the evidence that I can provide is a handbook with staff qualification information. Now at my program, my parent handbook has that. We have a section, that talks about the teachers and a bit of their biography, and that biography includes, their educational qualifications. So again, I want to use my parent handbook. However, I'm using it differently. Now I want to use it for meeting C5. Okay, so let's go through the process again of adding the parent handbook to a different standard. So here, I want to submit my parent handbook, so handbook of staff qualification information. I click Add Files because I want to add my file. And that opens the Documents library. By clicking Add Files, you now open the Documents library. I have to scroll up again. Okay, so now I'm in the Documents library. I'm looking for documents to link to C5, Handbook with Qualification Information. So I look in my Documents library, and I don't have a file that's linked to C5 yet, so I have to add a new file. So add new. So even though I'm using my parent handbook again, I have to add it to the document library a second time. Unfortunately, at this point in time, you cannot use the same file for multiple standards, because you see here that we're linking every file with a particular standard. Okay, so you have to repeat the process. So I'll name this file C5 Parent Handbook Staff Qual page 3 to 5, right? And so I'm being very specific here because I want to point the reviewer of the documentation to the exact place where the qualifications are listed. Okay, as much as possible you want to be specific because you don't want the person who's reviewing your documentation to have to search through to find what you want them to find, because there's a chance that they will not be able to find it. So as much as possible you want to note the page number. If you are scanning in something, you want to circle it, put a star next to it. Put it in bold. You want us to be able to easily find the part of the documentation that meets the standard. So I'm putting in the page numbers nice and clearly that this is where they should look to find my staff qualifications in my very thick parent handbook, right? That's for long documents. Put the page number in there. And then I'm still in family engagement, so I select that folder. And now I browse. Okay, so I'm back into my folder on my computer. I know I'm in communications, so I find the file. Well, I didn't prep for that one, Ariel, so I don't have the file preset, but let's say I can still upload the parent handbook, right? But the thing you want to remember is how you're naming the file in the portal. This is most important. Not the actual name of the file on your computer or on your flash drive, but here.
Hey, Ola, one of our quality improvement specialists asks a good question. Can you just copy the page in the handbook and upload only the page to meet the standard?
Yes, that's even preferable. If you can do that, just submit exactly what applies, and that's fine too. However, I know that if your handbook is large and you don't want to scan particular pages of it, then you can submit the entire thing again, but again, just being sure to point us to the right pages. So either way is fine. So now you see that I've added my C5 Parent Handbook Staff Quals, page 3 to 5, right, file, and it's checked, so that means it's being linked to the standard C5. But now I need to save it. I just added it to my library, but I haven't saved the connection. So when I save, you see that if I go back to C5, now you have to remember where you were, right, to look, to make sure. So I go back to C5 and I see, okay, it's been added there, great. However, I still have not checked the answer box, so I'm not getting points for it yet. We're working on making it so that once you add a file here, it automatically generates a checkbox here so that you would receive the points. But for now, you have to manually check that box and then scroll up and save the checklist to change the number of points. Okay, so you see my points have changed from 5 to 8. So now I know that I'm getting points for meeting that standard. And you would proceed to add files and generate points for each of the checklists. Now if you want to remove a file, I'll quickly go through this because I know we're running out of time. You would click on Add Remove. So let's say, for example, I don't want to submit my parent handbook after all. You know, it's been updated and we no longer have staff qualifications information in it. I'd rather submit a photograph of my bulletin board where we now have our teacher pictures and their bios and some qualification information. So I'll rather post that. So I want to remove my parent handbook. So I click Add Remove Files. Okay. And I scroll up to my documents library. Okay. You see that it's checked here, meaning that the parent handbook is linked to the standard C5. So I want to uncheck that. I want to unlink that document from that standard. Right? So I unlink it and I save. I want to cut the connection. So even though I saved it, it's still going to be listed in my documents library. Okay. And I'll show you that in 1 minute. So let's go back to C5. And so we see that, okay, it's gone, right? It used to be under here. That file that I added, it's no longer there because it's not associated with the standard anymore. But now I want to add my photograph. So I click Add Files. Okay, scroll up. And then I click Add New. I want to add it to my documents library. So I want to search for my photograph. Okay, so now I say C5 photo of board and then family engagement folder, and I browse on my computer for my file. So I'm still in my communication subfolder, so I just click on it. I already knew that I wanted to submit this photo, so I named it clearly, I saved it clearly, and I just click Open to upload it, and then I click Insert to add it to my documents library. Okay, now here's my photo, right? It's a JPEG, it's a photo file, it's checked. I want to link it to C5, photograph of bulletin board, and I save. Always save. Okay, and now when I go back to C5, it should be listed. And there it is, C5 under photograph of bulletin board, photo of board. Now you should be able to click on this on the document to see it. Let's see if it works. Okay. We're still working on that, but ideally you would be able to click on the hyperlink itself and see your file as extra verification that it's actually there. But it is there. But we're working on that. So that's how you add and remove files. Ariel, any questions before I go on?
We just had a question about showing providers how to enter their ERS self-study information. I know we've gone over that in previous portals.
Okay, so let's move on if we don't have more questions about the checklist.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's see. I'll scroll down, and then I can go to next. Let's see. Okay. The next screen gives you a summary of all of the points that you earned. Okay. So again, this is an estimation of your provisional rating. Just to give you some more information, now earned 8 points in family engagement because I partially completed that checklist. You see here that I earned 0 points in learning environment and management and leadership because I didn't start those checklists yet. So as you're going through, you can keep saving, and you can always come to this screen, self-study summary, and you can see how your points are changing as you're making edits and additions to the self-study. Okay, and along the way you can see where you would be rated based on the percentage of points earned. So here I've earned a total of 65 points, and if I were to be rated today, I would be at a star 2, right? Because I've earned within this range of points. So you can always generate that.
Now, Ola, what would happen if I were an accredited program, but I already was supposed to get points starting off?
Right. So right now we're not able to show accredited programs the number of automatic points they earned. So you would complete the checklist indicating the additional standards that you're meeting, and then you would see your total points here, and you would just add this number to the number of points that you automatically earned as an accredited or Head Start program in full compliance. So unfortunately you have to do that math by hand. We're working so that the portal would be able to show you that automatically, but that feature isn't available yet. So you would just have to add the points, and then you would have to, based on the new total with your automatic points, you would then find where you would be rated by the number of points needed here, and then that's how you would know where you are as an accredited program. Again, I'm sorry you have to do that offline, but we're working on making this experience better for everyone. Okay. Right now I don't see the option to input the ERS self-assessment here. Let me show you. So that's a bug that we have to fix, but let me quickly go to the test site, where I know I'll be able to see it. So bear with me 1 second. What am I doing? Okay, so what you should be able to see when you go into the portal are a few things. Groups. So here you can create classrooms. We ask that you only create a classroom that you're going to observe using the ERS self-assessment. Otherwise, you don't have to add your classrooms because Aspire will have that information. And again, completing an ERS self-assessment is optional. It's a standard that you can choose to meet if you want to earn those points. If you do not want to earn those points, you do not have to complete that process. But if you choose to complete the ERS self-assessment to earn the points, then you can input the self-assessment information in the portal. And you would do so by going to Group Self-Study. So I'm on the left navigation bar. Okay. So here, let's see if I can edit it. So when you click on Group Self-Study, you're taken to the entry page. Okay, and you're able to input the scores for every item. Okay. And that's from 0 to 7. The system automatically generates a score, but you have to type it in to verify it. Now, I can't edit this because I already submitted this, and so I'd have to unlock it. But this gives you the idea of the information that you would put in. Okay, so you put in every item score. If an item is not applicable, then you would unclick this checkbox, okay, so that it's not included in the calculation of the total score. And you get a score for every subscale. So I'll scroll down. You see all the subscales are listed except for parents and staff. We're not using parents and staff in Quality Stars New York at this time. We capture a lot of that information in the family engagement and management and leadership categories of the standards. So we're not asking for that. Of course, if you complete that subscale on your own, that's fine, but there's no need to enter it here. And then you would enter the total score and the average score. Okay. Now, if your subscale score is below if any subscale score is below 3.25, you would also have to submit an improvement plan for that subscale. We have a Word document for the improvement plan that you can use as a template, and you would upload that Word document to the standard CE2 as you would any other document that you would upload. So that's a separate document that you keep on your computer, and you just upload that and indicate that you meet the standard CE2. Okay, but we'll automatically get the self-assessment information if you input your scores here. Ariel, any questions about the ERS?
I guess this one could be aired to the group. What if you had done an ERS last year for a UPK program? Could you use this rating? Could you sort of like impose this rating on the system?
So the ERS self-assessment should have been done within the last 12 months. If it was done after longer than 12 months ago, then it would not count. We ask that, evidence that's submitted to Quality Stars New York be in use and valid within the 12 months of a rating. So,
but even so, wouldn't the provider have to type in those scores into the portal?
Oh yes, yes.
Right.
Yes, there's a paper score sheet that comes with the ECHRs or the ITERs, and you would, as you're observing a classroom, you would of course go through and note those scores on the paper form of the score sheet. But you would then have to transfer the numbers from the paper form to this screen, to the portal.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? So then let me go back to, okay, thank you. So I'll go back to the program we were in. So again, this is the site self-study summary, or the provisional rating screen. Again, it's an estimation of how you might be rated. The number of points that you earn officially might be less than what you see here in the portal, because again, we have to verify all of the information, including the documentation that you submit and including the evidence that's sent to Aspire. So then if you click Next, you can view or print your self-study report. So you click on the button to view, print, or save. Okay. It's important that you save the self-study report or print it out before you submit it to us. Right now, you're not able to go back and see your report after you've submitted it. So here's my self-study report. So you see all of the information that I entered. You would verify that all of this is right. It all looks right. My staff is listed. The points for qualifications and experience. And my checklist that I've completed. Okay, and then the files that I added to each to meet the standard. I'm told you're able to click on this and actually see your file. Let's see if it works. It's downloading. This might take a while, so I'm going to cancel that, but it's the idea. Okay, no, it opened it. Okay, so it opened the file. I'll get out of that. And then you can go down, so you see all of the files that you added for the document, for the standard, sorry. Okay, this is your full checklist. And then you see your self-study summary report. Okay, you see the number of points earned, and you see the rating that you are. Okay. And then up here you can print it, save it, I really suggest that you save this. And you know, you can generate this report on a weekly basis or a daily basis if you want, and you can save it every time you generate it so that you'll just have a record of how your points are changing before you actually submit the self-study. But if I'm ready to submit the self-study, I go back to the application, so click Return Application, and then I click Next or Submit. Okay, and it says validate and submit the self-study. This self-study is now ready to be submitted. And if you're ready, click Submit Self-Study for approval. Please do not click this button until you are absolutely certain that you are ready to submit the self-study. It gets locked after you submit it, and you should not be able to unlock it and edit it. Okay, but if I'm ready, I click Submit. And I get a message that says, congratulations, I've successfully completed and submitted the self-study, and an email confirmation will be sent to me shortly. Okay. So once you see that email confirmation, you should know that it's been submitted. On our end, we will not be contacting you separately to confirm that we have received your self-study. So look out for the email. If you don't see the email, then you should contact Ariel and we'll investigate. And I think that's it. Ariel, any last questions?
No more over here.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Again, we'll be scheduling webinars specifically for family providers shortly. And the deadline for submissions are January 2nd unless you've received an extension, in which case that date has already been communicated to you. Contact us if you have any questions. If you have any trouble going through the portal, we're here to help. And we want to know how it's going, so please don't hesitate. Okay, again, you can contact me at ofriday@QUALITYstarsNY.org or Ariel at adavis@QUALITYstarsNY.org.